This is the Deen Show.
This is the Deen Show.
This is the Deen Show.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, assalamu alaikum, which is a greeting of peace. Peace be unto you. Welcome to another episode of The Deen Show. My guest today, we're honored to have Dr. Mohamed Mamdouh. You can go to thedeenshowtv.com. He is the academic advisor for the American Open University, and the list goes on. The programs go by fast, so you can go to the website to read a little bit more about him. We're going to be, because we've been getting some requests, many, we're going to be talking about the sisters in Islam, the women in Islam, the rights of women in Islam. Today, there's some confusion. Women feel like they really have had their women's movement and that some rights have been achieved, but Islam did this 1,400 years ago. So that's what we're going to be talking about today when we come back here on The Deen Show. We'll see you in a few.
This is the Deen Show.
This is the Deen Show.
This is the Deen Show.
This is the Deen Show. This is the Deen Show.
This is the Deen Show.
This is the Deen Show. This is the Deen Show.
This is the Deen Show.
This is the Deen Show. This is the Deen Show. This is the Deen Show.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Peace be unto you.
And to you as well.
You're back again
Yeah,
here on The Deen Show.
Alhamdulillah.
And inshallah, we're going to keep having you back.
Inshallah.
People are getting the benefit from your knowledge.
Inshallah.
And today, we're going to pick your brain some more. You hear one of the things that some people will associate with Islam is the subjugation of women, that we put the woman down. But it's interesting, more women are coming to Islam than men. So let's clear up this misconception by educating people, by letting people know what is the true status of women in Islam.
Jazakallah khairan for this.
We are.
First of all, it's true what you've said, that according to the statistics, we know that more women come to Islam than men. And this is quite obvious. And the reason for that, and whenever you ask any woman who became a Muslimah, she would tell you that I feel safe and protected in this religion. Mm-hmm. And I feel abused and subjected to any problem whenever I was before Islam. And because you know that, a lot of people would abuse women, and most of the crimes, because the natural weaknesses of women and men, they try to use their physical strength to force women to do things. And that's why they found that Islam is the religion and the ideology and the way of life that gives full protection to Islam, to women. And if we go back to Islam, and I'd like to go back even before Islam, people talk about women usually that were badly treated by the Arabs before Islam. And I think this is not true. I will tell you 3 or 4 examples.
Yeah.
Of course, they were not treated as good as they had been treated by Islam. But even I would talk about even the time of Jahiliyyah, women were treated at that time much better than nowadays. Let me give you an example. For example, the financial independence. We have many examples in the history of the Arabs before the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, that women had this financial independence. They have full control on their properties. They have full control on the people who work beneath them. They had a word to say and protect. For example, women were allowed to protect men. If somebody comes from another tribe resorting to this tribe, and he would say that I would take this man or that woman a protector for me, the society would acknowledge that. If the man or the woman would say that I will protect X, so he is protected. she got this power even before Islam. And I wonder what happens in the world nowadays. If you compare this with what's going on in the world, you will find that really this was an amazing thing. Another thing that, look at Khadija, for example, right? She was totally free, she had full control on her money, and big names at her time wanted to marry her, and she refused.
Yeah.
She had the full word in the full sense of the word, and the meaning of the word. She was not needing her father or her mother or somebody else to talk on her behalf. She was the one to decide, I accept this man or accept this man.
Yeah.
And she is the one who hired Prophet Muhammad ﷺ before he was a prophet. She hired him to work for her.
Yeah.
And this try to imagine that the freedom she had. She is the one who would select her employees and reject this and reject this. She's the one who decides to marry this man or this man. She's full freedom before that. And even we know that some Arabs, very few Arabs, used to kill their daughters before Islam, when they were alive,
Yeah.
to bury them alive, which is such a savage thing, no doubt about
That was like
that.
their form of abortion? Or worse?
Some sort.
This is much
Yeah,
worse.
It's
but
much
this is
worse.
To get
definitely.
rid of. They really look
Yes,
down.
it's very, it doesn't at all, does not go with the human nature.
Yeah.
But when you look into that matter and you explore it, you will find that the Arabs who did that, which were few in numbers, they used to do this out of love for their daughters and their women. The reason is that at that time this was a tribal society. This tribe is strong enough to attack this tribe and would kill the men and would take the women, right? And they would enslave them and they would, abuse them, and he would do many bad things for them. And the Arabs, they had the honor and they had the integrity to refuse such things to the degree that they preferred to kill their daughter rather than to leave their daughter to become captives for those attackers from other tribes. Even that they had a point which reflects that this is not out of disrespect or dislike of women, rather it was out of love for them. They wanted to protect them. So when they were attacked, so the women would not be enslaved by the other tribes.
Yeah.
Even that issue. I don't want to go into even much details in that, but I would love to tell you that even the prostitutes at that time, they had more freedom than free women nowadays. Let me just give you an
Give us an example, yeah.
Yes, okay. One example is that women who practiced in prostitution before the Islam would make a tent and would put a flag, a red flag, so everybody would know that this is a house of prostitution. So the people would come to this house. Now, let me assume that there is a house of a prostitute that had been visited by 5 or 6 or 7, 10 men, right? And then after some time, the woman, the prostitute, became pregnant.
Yeah.
She had the power that she would say, this man, you know that at that time there was no DNA.
Yeah.
She would select this man or that man and said, you are the father of my child. And he has to accept because the society accepted this.
Yeah.
In other words, she had the power to say that this is the father of my son. And the whole society and the whole community would acknowledge this. So powerful. If the woman is weak, nobody would give her this right. But she had this right even before Islam. I'm not saying that this is something good, of course,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to show you that the picture or the whole portrait that was given to humanity about how the women were treated before Islam was not a true picture.
Yeah.
Was just a superficial picture. But even though Islam came and gave women much, much more rights than what they had before Islam.
That's what we're going to get into, God willing, next when we come back after the break. We'll be right back.
This is the Deen.
I don't say to people I used to be a Christian. I still carry the values and the principles of loving Jesus Christ, and perhaps maybe more than people who call themselves Christians. So I think I got the best out of Christianity by becoming Muslim.
so many other things that you can enjoy without drinking a sip of alcohol. Death is the same thing. It's not an obstacle. It's not something to cause people to get completely desperate and start stopping living their lives. No, it should be a motivation. It's only one life that you're going to be living, so you got to do it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
I am not afraid to stand alone. I am not afraid to stand alone. If Allah's by my side, I am not afraid to stand alone. I am not afraid to stand alone. If Allah's by my side, I am not afraid to stand alone. I am not afraid to stand alone. If Allah's by my side, I am not afraid to stand alone.
Welcome back to the Deen Show. We're talking about women in Islam, and we talked about with Dr. Mamdouh some of the status of women before Islam, and now we are going to continue on talking about Islam when now the people were exposed to this way of life, the way of life of all the messengers of submitting to the one who created you. When the guidance came to the people, talk about this, how this raised the woman up in status.
Yeah, when Islam came, it gave women more rights than they had before. Yes, so some of the practices were accepted by Islam and some, of course, were rejected. For example, women were given, of course, they still continue to have their financial freedom. And this is something very interesting, that when a rich woman in Islam marries a man who is poor or rich, she doesn't cost him anything. In other words, she doesn't pay anything from her pocket.
Yeah.
He is the one who is fully in charge of that. Her money is for her. It's not used by him. But he is the one who is supposed to sponsor her and to spend his money on her and to prepare everything that she needs for the house.
Yeah.
So she keeps her money and she uses her money, in other words, in his money, in other words.
So he's truly the sugar daddy, as they say. You
Absolutely.
heard of this term?
And
She don't have to spend a
absolutely. He
dime.
becomes the sugar dad.
But at the same time, he's giving her all her rights.
All her
And
rights.
not just using and then dumping her like what's going on today. The
Absolutely.
sugar daddies will buy you a little bit of a diamond here, there,
Yes.
but then after he's had his thrills, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to go to
No,
the
this
next
is not
one.
the case of sugar dad. You
Yeah.
still have some rights now.
Yeah.
And this is, alhamdulillah, when a woman marries a person now with this contract, type of contract. And let me tell you something about the contract. As people say, we know that polygamy is allowed in Islam, which is for obvious logical reason that anybody can see, and we'll talk about this later.
Yeah.
But even a person who has this right to have 3 or 4 wives, still it is the right of the wife. If somebody proposes to her and wants to marry her, it is the right of the wife to reject that, to say in the contract, one of my conditions in the contract is that you do not marry another woman.
Yeah.
If he signed this contract, so he is Islamically obliged to fulfill the terms of the contract. So she still has the right to do that. And again, one of the misconceptions here, to add to this, one of the misconceptions, people think that women in Islam marry without their consent. In fact, this is totally, absolutely incorrect.
You can't just take the woman and say,
It's absolutely
throw her
incorrect.
to this guy and say, you're going to marry him. She doesn't have any say. She does have a say.
To the degree that if this happens, this is not considered marriage. It's rather, it is considered some sort of adultery.
Yeah.
A woman has to say her word, to agree on the person, and she should never be forced. And I want people to differentiate between the practices of some people and what is the teachings of Islam.
They call it like arranged marriages.
Arranged marriage, even if it is arranged marriage, however, her
She has to have the consent.
absolutely.
It's different when
Absolutely.
arranged, we mean like, okay, your father and mother, they might know a family that they have a good son or a good daughter, so they're trying to meet instead of going out and just freestyle, go meet anybody here, there, and without the parents being involved, what's prevalent today.
Absolutely.
Family's always involved.
Absolutely.
That's the arrangement we're talking about?
Not only that, the involvement of the parent or the brother or the uncle, it's for the benefit of her because they support her. They are consultants for her.
Yeah.
They explain things for her because she may not know the person quite well. They are the informants that they get some information about this person
Yeah.
and would tell her the picture and leave her to decide, help her to to make the decision. Like if you have your child is trying to join a university and he is reluctant which specialty he would join, you would try to guide him. This may take you would lead you to do this and this. And that's why they have these orientation courses in the universities to guarantee that the students before the selection, he or she knows what he or she is doing. So those are considered consultants, you can say that, or experts on the matters who give her advice to help her take the right decision.
So this is the most important thing, marriage, you should be consulting with your family.
Absolutely.
That's what it is.
Absolutely.
Islam encourages.
In any area of the world, when you take a decision by yourself without consulting the people who have the expertise, definitely your decision would not be as right as when you have a lot of consultants.
That just makes good sense.
Absolutely.
But what you've seen a lot of the youth do today is they just go out there on their own and they exclude their family. That's not right.
That's not right at all. They deprive themselves from these long experiences that they have.
Yeah.
And I think any wise leader, as you see that all the leaders of the world has all these cabinets and consultants around them to help them make the right decision.
Yeah.
This is exactly the situation. A woman, not only a woman, but a man as well, he needs to be consulted. So that's why he asks his parents, he asks his friends, he asks his uncles to get information, the right information, and based on this information, he or she would take their decision.
Many people from the outside, even some Muslims, will have a hard time because of maybe the environment we're in, but talk about the wisdom and not it being something that's forced upon a woman, but she makes the decision herself that, you know what, she's going to dress how the Creator wants her to dress, that modest way. So let's talk about this hijab.
Absolutely.
That from the outside, someone says, why is she covering like this?
Absolutely.
Why is she just show it all? That's true freedom. That's not true freedom, is it? Let's talk about the wisdom behind the modesty of the Muslim woman.
It's something very obvious to anyone in the world. And something that everybody practices, a Muslim or non-Muslim. When you have something precious, when you have something valuable, you want to protect it.
Absolutely.
You want to keep it in a place that cannot be affected by others, cannot be stolen, cannot be abused, anything that you own that's valuable, you don't just throw it in the street like that.
No.
You try to keep it and you try to protect it. This is exactly what Islam gives to women. Islam loves the woman and knows that she's so precious, so valuable, that needs to be protected because of the natural beauty that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala endowed to women, right? There's more beauty given to women than men, which everybody can see that, right? And therefore, they need more protection. And the way to be protected, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala legislated that when they come out covering themselves so their beauty is not shown to others. Because once it is shown, they become subject to any type of rape or any type of attack. And you can see this. Let's assume that 5 women are walking in the streets. 3 or 4 of them are half naked or quarterly naked, or some parts of their body are shown, and one of them is fully covered. And if we find other people, men especially, watching and observing them, definitely they will be following the ones who are more naked in their bodies, and they would not do that to the other woman. Why? Because her beauty is covered.
So when we say the beauty is covered, define this a little bit, elaborate on this. So
this is
no
exactly
tints,
the definition.
Tight skin, like
the definition
you're naked,
of
but
hijab, of course. So no tight things that
so
would
the curves that would draw the opposite gender to start to salivate and start to go and that needs to be covered.
Yes,
and the man needs to lower his gaze.
That because of the beauty of women, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded men first to lower their gaze when they see women. Of course, women are asked too, but because women are more beautiful than men in general, that That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded men first
Yeah.
to lower their gaze, and then He commanded
this
women
together
they are
perfect
supposed
system,
to lower
yeah.
gaze, because once you open your eyes,
Yeah.
right, you cannot stop the effects that will happen to your brain and to your heart.
Yeah.
So that's why this is the whole. That's why you see the whole system pieces together to complete the puzzle.
If we had more of this,
Yeah.
like we see today, that this sex industry, the pornography, we're living in the real world. It's a
Absolutely.
billion-dollar industry that
Absolutely.
is
It's-
feeding off this
Absolutely.
desire of men.
Absolutely.
So this Islam preserves the woman and protects her through this hijab, isn't it?
Absolutely. Go to any bookshop and find magazines. If you find 20 magazines, at least you'll find 19, if not 20 magazines out of 20 exposing,
Exploiting the women, isn't it?
exploiting women.
That's not true freedom.
And this is one of the reasons why women become Muslims. And this statistic was very clear in Germany, when a lot of German women said that we don't want to be treated as,
A sex object.
absolutely, as objects.
Can I say that? Sex object, that's what they're being treated as.
Of
isn't
course.
It? Yeah.
This is the truth.
Uh-huh.
Islam gives much respect to that.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, Islam does not object to sex in the legal way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So now in the
legislated through
house, she can
marriage.
take it all off.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
With her husband,
Absolutely.
it's on.
In fact, amazingly,
Yeah.
you would find how Islam encouraged this. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned an amazing hadith that would encourage a person, yes, to have this strong intimacy with his wife. And they asked him, he said that you will be rewarded by Allah if you do that. And they were shocked. And this raised a question in them. And they asked the Prophet ﷺ, are we rewarded when we practice that intimacy with our wives? He said, yes, because if you practice it in an illegal way, you are punished by Almighty Allah. So, if you practice it in a legal way, you will be rewarded by Allah.
With that, let's take a break.
Let's take a
and we'll
break.
be right back, God willing.
Do not kill a woman. Do not kill a child. Do not.
Going to different religious leaders, Buddhism, Hinduism, forms of Christianity. I even ran into people from the Nation of Islam.
Kill an old man. Do not kill an animal. Do not cut a tree down. Do not pollute their water. Do not burn their homes.
Welcome back to the Deen Show. We are here talking about the true status, the upliftment of something that is more precious than diamonds and money and cars is a woman. We love the women and we want them to truly get their rights. And how can they get their rights? Through the one who created them, the one who knows them, the creator of the heavens and earth. And we're here with Dr. Mamdouh, and we want to continue talking about, we left off where you said now that even that when one is having intimate relations with his wife, he's getting rewarded.
You're rewarded by Almighty Allah for that.
That's
This is
amazing.
what amazing. And this is why, because this is one way to protect the family, to protect the woman, to protect the husband himself from falling into sins.
Let's talk about this. There is some confusion also. We want to reach out to the non-Muslims, and now they got to see that there's no forced marriages in Islam.
Absolutely.
There's so much to cover here. We're just giving them a taste.
Absolutely.
We talked about that the woman, through this hijab, is protected. She's liberated. She's not subjugated. But for some Muslims, some Muslim women, some people will think that, you know what, the hijab is not an obligatory thing. Is it a consensus among all the scholars and from today and from the past that this is something that is obligatory on every Muslim woman?
I wouldn't say among the scholars.
Yeah.
I would say it's direct command from Almighty Allah in the Quran. فَلْيَضْرِبْنَ بِخُمُورِهِنَّ عَلَى جِيُوبِهِنَّ. They should make their covers, hide their heads.
Draw their headscarves
and their bodies.
over their bosoms, their chests.
It's
clear.
a clear-cut command. And the people who try to twist things and to play with things, they would say that the word itself is not used, of course. Yes. When you say that the word alcohol is not used in the Quran, I would say yes, but the word wine is used. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the people try to deceive others by using these words, playing with words, and people are deceived. Oh, show me one single word in the Quran like that. But of course, there are many other words. There's something called synonyms in any language.
Synonyms.
And the way you express it. For example, when you say that, it's not necessary that I say this is haram, but I say that this is not allowed in Islam.
Same thing.
You don't do that. Which means it's prohibited. It's not all the time I say that it's prohibited, say that you're not allowed to do that.
Yes. We have a science of this hadith, the sayings of the last and final message, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that the Quran goes, he's the teacher of the Quran, he's the walking instructional. Is there a situation where a woman came and he had turned away and he had instructed that the only thing that should be shown are the face and the hands?
Yes.
And nothing transparent. Elaborate on this.
Yes, there's, of course, when they say that, the companions describe this. When this verse came, that we have seen the women at that time, yes, were covering everything as if they were crow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were describing this. So what the difference among the scholars is not in there's hijab or not there's hijab. The difference is that the form of the hijab and the shape of the hijab.
Okay, that's
yes. There's some scholars, and this is the majority of scholars, that they say that women should cover everything, and some scholars would say that they are allowed to cover their whole bodies except the face and the hands. However, if a woman feels that she is beautiful, as most women, she's supposed to cover her face again, because this is a protection for the whole society. Yeah.
If you look at someone, because this might be odd to some people, but the best of women that even, let's say, the non-Muslims would look at, they look at what we have. We don't know what Mary's mothers look like, but what they paint a picture, you'll see her
Absolutely.
in hijab.
Absolutely.
The best of the Christian women, the nuns, you'll
Absolutely.
see them.
This is hijab. All of them are
isn't
wearing
it?
hijab. This
Yeah.
is hijab. They are covering everything except their face.
Yeah.
And this is a proof in itself that this hijab was not only an obligation on the Muslim, it was an obligation on the non-Muslims as well in the previous religion.
It was.
And this is the proof by the Christians themselves,
Yeah.
by the nuns themselves, who are the closest one to follow the traditions of Jesus, peace be upon him.
Tell us now, for the Muslim woman who is afraid, because she has Muslim parents, but her Muslim parents will kick her out of the house if she wears hijab. Or the Muslim parents, these are Muslim parents, you have these situations going on where they're giving their daughters, because they're scared that now this is going to bring harm to them, that now they're going to be exposed and they're going to be known as Muslims, and because of certain circumstances,
Absolutely.
this might bring hardship. So they say, this was for that time, like it kind of expired or something.
Yeah.
What do we have to say?
These are the phobic fears that happen perhaps after some incidents that happened in 2001 or so. But it happens like this. But again, we want to tell this woman who wears hijab and she's afraid of her
She's not
parents.
wearing hijab, let's say. We want her to wear hijab.
Yeah, we want her. And I said that in the beginning of the previous episode, when I talked about the key to paradise, I said that when you know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you love Him, you would never want to disobey Him, because He got the utmost love from you. The priority love is given to Allah, then is given to someone else after that, whether it's the parent or to the spouse or to the child, but the main love is for Almighty Allah. And again, we said that this love, to be translated by submission, should be translated. So one sign of submission to Almighty Allah from women is wearing the hijab. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded men to do things that men can do, and vice versa.
So He didn't put anything on anyone that it's not in their ability to do it.
Absolutely. This is again comes back to what we said, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He commands somebody to do something, Allah knows that it is within His capacity and within His ability. So it is within the capacity
So
of
this
a
is the
woman.
part of the test. Are you going to pass or fail?
Absolutely. It's a test.
Yeah.
Is she going to pass the test or not? Is she going to please Allah more or to please her parents? Is she going to please Allah or the society? Is she going to please Allah or her husband? Is she going to please Allah or her employer? she has to make the balance. Any Muslim who would listen to these questions, immediately the answer is known to any Muslim.
Yeah.
I'm going to please Allah.
Thank
regardless
you.
of what's
Thank
going to
you.
happen.
May
Jazakallah
God
khair.
Almighty Allah
Ameen.
reward you for being with us.
Jazakallahu khairan.
Well, yeah, thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
And thank you for being with us on another episode of The Deen Show. We just gave you a small taste. You can go into our library, read more about the status of women in Islam, which simply means peace acquired by submitting to the will of the one who created you. And your Creator knows what's best. So He's given you some things that He knows you can do, that He knows that you can strive in His way, and He will make it easy for you. You just have to have the vision, the picture painted, that this life will end and the angel of death will come to extract your soul. And are you going to be prepared when everyone is gone and just you in the grave, and you hear those footsteps walking away, and now it's too late? I should have, I could have, I should have did that and this and the other, but it's too late now. Don't let that moment come. Pray to the one who created you to make it easy, and He will. And then strive to submit and be in line with everything that He's told you to do, because He loves you the most. So love Him back by being obedient. We'll see you next time on The Deen Show. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you.